Welcome to Stay Alive and Fit with Liz Goodman, a new innovative radio show that taps into what's happening now in the medical industry, featuring fitness experts, foodies, and medical professionals from Tenet Health, with breaking medical news from David DePino. Get it right here and be an active participant in your health. Mixed messages about what is best for your health can make you feel like you're on a runaway train. So hop on and have some fun while Liz navigates this medical mystery ride. Call 888-565-1470 and ask Liz, your source for the latest medical technology and long life advice. All aboard. Here's Liz Goodman.
Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Monday, May 9th. A very, very special day for me because today is the day that my baby boy was born. So I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day for all you guys out there. Women, men, everybody who enjoyed being with family. And me, my special Mother's Day gift was my beautiful baby boy, Tyler. And I love you, baby, and happy Mother's Day to me and happy birthday to you today. So I'm Liz. I want you to call and ask me, and I will give you the answers you seek to all the fitness and medical questions you have. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. The sight of blood makes me squeal, but I'm an ordinary gal who just wants to navigate my way through this crazy medical maze and figure out exactly what it is that I need to know to help me help myself in everything medical. So specifically this month, we are focusing on Melanoma Mondays. And the reason we're doing that is because the American Cancer Society sort of dedicates this month towards melanoma awareness. It's a very underappreciated, I think, cancer in terms of people don't really realize how serious it is. They don't realize that it metastasizes, it spreads, it comes back, it returns, and it can actually kill you. So I think it's a very important topic, especially for people here living in Florida, because they don't realize that melanoma isn't just on your face. It's on your arms, it's on your feet, it's on your toes. I think, if I remember, we had Dr. Casey Coe on a few weeks ago, and I think she said, I don't know if it was Jimmy Buffett or somebody had died because they got cancer on their toes. But when I bring on David DePino, he's going to remind me who that was. In the meantime, I want you to call in and talk to me directly and ask questions to some wonderful doctors we have on the air today. Our call number is 888-565-1470, 888-565-1470. I'm going to quickly tell you who these doctors are, and then we will kick to David to the what you always want to hear, which is the breaking medical news with Tenet. And so let me just tell you quickly, we have a really amazing doctor on the air today. Her name is Dr. Abdullah. She is phenomenal. She was recently given a very prestigious honor, which was from the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, which is just an amazing facility. She was given the honor to write an entire chapter in a new book, which if you go online, you'll be able to see a photo of this, but it's called Melanoma. And it's all about melanoma. And she was asked to contribute and write a chapter specifically in this handbook about all the things that are related to melanoma after you've been treated with the cancer and ways in which you can be helping yourself prevent the return of that. So it's going to be very interesting to have a topic of conversation with her. That's not her only specialty. She's really well-rounded and phenomenal doctor. She also is focuses on colon cancer and my favorite robotic surgery and all sorts of other things that she can tell you about when she gets on the air. And we also have a call-in from the American Cancer Society who is they're going to discuss what I always like, which is the slip, slop, slap, and wrap, which is a great little slogan that the American Cancer Society wants you to remember in order to protect yourself from the skin, from the sun, protect your skin. So she's going to talk about other things that we don't necessarily think about when we're putting on our sun protection, our SPF, whatever number we're told by her that we should be using. I know I always use like 50 to 100 because I'm so fair, but I don't know what the right thing is to use and what's the right way to put that sunblock on. So she's going to come on. She's a dermatologist. She is speaking on behalf of the American Cancer Society, and we're very, very appreciative that she's going to be here. So stay tuned to that. That's right after the midday break or the mid-time break. And then the final interview is a woman who's going to wow you. I'm not going to tell you much more about her, other than her name is Tanya Abreu, and she has a company called WOW. So we'll let her tell you all about it. You're going to have to stay tuned and listen up to find out what WOW stands for. So I'm going to kick it over to David DePino with Tenet Florida Physician Services. Let me say that again, Tenet Florida Physician Services. He is the man, the PR guru who always gives us this fabulous breaking news. And I can't wait to hear what it is this week, Dave.
Thank you, Liz, for having me, and happy Mother's Day. I had a wonderful Mother's Day as well. I visited my mom in Jupiter, so still on that high from this great weekend. And it was Bob Marley who had melanoma, and I'll let Dr. Abdullah talk a little bit about that if she'd like. As for breaking news, I know we've talked about this in the past, but this Saturday is Tenet's Advanced Neuroscience Network annual neuroscience symposium here in Boca Raton at the Boca Resort, Saturday, May 14th. That's this Saturday. Mm-hmm. And there's still opportunities for doctors to get involved. They can get CME credits. That's continuing medical education credits. And for more information, just visit ANN, like the woman's name, ANNsymposium.com. And then we have a place where they can register and learn a little bit more about it. But that's this Saturday all day at the Boca Raton Resort right here in Boca Raton. So that's big for us. And then I kind of want to just give you a preview of what we have upcoming next week. Dr. Raul Perez Vasquez, internal medicine physician here in Boca Raton, can talk a little bit about diabetes and other ailments.
Okay.
So that's important. He's actually my doctor, so I'm happy to have him on.
Are you diabetic, David?
No, not yet. So,
yeah, I mean, of course you don't have to tell me that. That's
yeah,
privileged.
I'm lucky. I'm a big guy, and I have a good resting heartbeat, and all my numbers are right, but it's just a matter of time, so we're working on it. But not even pre-diabetic yet, believe it or not.
Well, listen, I'm grateful that you are in good health, and I know you were a football player. I saw some pictures of you as a football player. So football players in general are big guys. So, I love the fact that you're bringing on your own doctors so we can get a little bit of their perspective. And part of the point of doing this show is that we get the opportunity to ask doctors questions that we don't have the time to ask them when we sit with them face-to-face in an office because they're running from patient to patient to patient. So if you call in to stay live and fit, our goal is to get you to participate firsthand, like VIP medical treatment with fabulous doctors from Tenet Florida Physician Services and be able to learn more about whatever it is you can't normally ask your doctor when you're sitting in an appointment. So call into 888-565-1470 or listen to us online live right now at amp2.tv. That's www.amp2.tv. Or go onto my website at www.stayaliveandfit.com. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just join, participate, text, email questions. We are here to help you solve all of your medical questions that you just wanted to get the answers to, but had absolutely no way to get those answers. So we're going to kick it to a commercial break, and I want to thank David so much for doing what he always does best, which is giving us some breaking news from Tenet. And we're going to be coming up with our doctor coming up after the break. Stay tuned.
Live and Fit is your weekly dose of information about health, wealth, fitness, or food, so you can live longer, age gracefully, and stay alive and fit. Stay tuned. Liz will be right back. Don't turn that dial, or you just might miss this week's healthy hot tip. With Obamacare, it's almost impossible to get comprehensive medical care and information. What if you want to see an acupuncturist or chiropractor? No way. They won't pay. Need a specialist without waiting 3 weeks for a referral? Ask Liz. She provides VIP medical information for the masses. No referral, no marketplace, no hassle. Get on board and stay alive and fit with Liz Goodman. Mondays, 7 p.m. or watch live on amp2.tv and like us on Facebook.
Hoping to get to twice. I'm so bad at that. I don't know why I do it. Oh, I'm so bad at it. And they cut the music off right in the middle of me being bad at that. But the point of it is I want to entertain you a little bit, make this a little fun, fun for everyone. It's not just like, ooh-hoo, medical, mystery or medical bore, for people who just don't have any interest in medical anything. This is for everybody to learn about what they can do to help themselves. And so it's about fitness, it's about food, it's about, being fabulous. That's what this is about. And I bring on fabulous experts from right here, local Florida Physician Services, Tenet Florida Physician Services. And I've got a really amazing lady sitting next to me, Dr. Abdullah. She's a surgical oncologist. She's sitting right here by my side. She came all the way from Miami, which is a long, long drive. And so I'm really appreciative and grateful that she came through this crazy rush hour to be here and join us on this show. What's so fabulous about this particular doctor is that she is a little bit of everything. I mean, not only was she recognized in this fabulous book called Melanoma, which you can go online and learn more about, but her areas of interest are very extensive. They're minimally invasive and robotic surgery. And if you've watched the show at all, you know I love the robotic surgery. My very first show was with Dr. Byron about robotic surgery. So I can't wait to hear more about that. But she's also a melanoma and skin cancer expert. She deals with complex gastric, now I don't want to say this wrong, but it's malignancies. Malignancy. Oh, I need glasses. I can read that word. Malignancies. She deals with breast cancer, sarcomas, thyroid, and parathyroid surgical procedures, and I know colon cancer because we talked about that a little bit before the break, before we began this evening. So I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Abdullah. I do want to give some information quickly about the doctor. She practices at North Shore Medical Center and Palmetto General Hospital. She's a surgical oncologist, and I mentioned all the things she specializes in, but she also has specific areas of interest when it comes to skin cancer and melanoma, and she's really well versed on the topic. Her office is at 7150 West 20th Avenue. She's in Suite 615. That's Hialeah. She can be reached at 305-932-2463. That's 305-932-2463. You can call to speak to her at 888-565-1470 if you're listening to this online. You can watch us at www.amp2.tv. So welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what made you get into, being a doctor to begin with, and how you end up with Tenet Florida Physician Services? And then we can get into a little bit about, your advice and your thoughts when it comes to melanoma and how people can really prevent the return of melanoma.
Okay. Thank you, Liz, for having me on the show, and happy Mother's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
Well, I initially became a doctor because I had an interest in cancer research, and after doing, I did some cancer research actually at a research institution, the National Cancer Institutes in Washington, D.C. And after I was involved in that research, I decided I would like to have more clinical experience or experience with patients themselves. And so I then ended up going to medical school and becoming a physician. I ended up coming back to Florida after my training and joined Tenet Florida Physician Services as a surgical oncologist.
But very exciting. And so do you like it back in Florida? Is it too hot for you? I mean, being an oncologist, and it's probably the perfect place to be because you probably have more skin cancers here than probably anywhere else, and at least in our country. I would think the sun is the hottest here.
Yeah, there is a fair bit of melanoma and other types of skin cancers that are here, as well as other types of cancers, actually, including colon cancer, breast cancers. And so I do love it in Florida. I'm actually somewhat originally from this area, so I came back to South Florida because it's basically home for me. So
okay. So now you're down at the hospital, and I know that you do these robotic surgeries. I want to touch a little bit on that, and then we'll get back to your book and your story and how that came about, because that's really exciting.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about what you do with robotic surgery. Is it for colon cancer? Is it for, I don't even want to guess. So what is it exactly that, I was told by the other doctor that it's like a 3-armed, 1-legged robot. And is that what you do too? I call them the 3-armed, 1-legged robot, So.
Yes, it is sort of, that's a very good comparison. It is sort of a 3-arm machine. I think that there are sometimes when patients come to visit me, they ask, well, is it the robot doing the surgery, or are you doing the surgery? What's really going on? So really, it's an apparatus that we use. It's sort of a method of surgery, and it's actually a pretty new method of surgery in which we use a machine that I control during the surgery to remove the cancer.
So you do, which surgeries do you use it for? Any and all surgeries, or it's just very specific surgeries?
No, it's very specific surgeries. Specifically, we use them more for intra-abdominal surgeries, like colon cancers, rectal cancers, gastric or stomach cancers. Those are the main 3 types of surgeries that the robot is used for, that I use it. It is also used for gynecological surgeries and also urological surgeries.
So you're not actually standing in the room with the patient when you're doing these surgeries, is that correct? Are you standing like through a window and operating a robot, or are you standing right up against the patient? I'm not really understanding visually what exactly that...
So there's a robot that we place next to the patient, and right in the same room, right next to the patient, there's another console or the area where we control the robot. And it's sort of like a video game control in a way.
So my kids would love it.
Probably.
They'd be like, can I please try? Can I please try, Mommy? I mean, do you find that that's like a lot what people, they hear about, they're really curious, they want to try it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is an intriguing way of surgery. However, it's also a very effective way of surgery. There have been studies that have shown that the use of the robot actually does improve outcomes in certain surgeries.
So how is the use of the robot improving the outcome of the surgery?
Well, what it does is it allows the patient to go home faster. It allows the patient to basically recover from the surgery much quicker. And so instead of having a big incision, they're able to have very small incisions. And using the robot, we're able to remove the cancer that can be in various complicated areas of the body. We're able to remove them with ease. And the patient doesn't have large incisions, so they're able to usually get back to normal everyday function very fast compared to when they have a bigger incision.
Wow, that's really cool. So it's a more, I hate to say we're replacing ourselves with robots, but it really can't do it unless you're directing it. So it needs to have that oomph of the human touch. It's not just the robot, but the robot just makes it more effective, faster, and therefore maybe the survival rate is quicker, is better or greater because they don't have to be under the knife for so long, and it's more precise. Would you say that is
I would
accurate?
say specifically that the recovery rate is faster. You mentioned the survival rate. That's probably a little bit different, but the recovery rate is faster. And yes, the robot does not do the surgery on its own. It is controlled by the surgeon. So it's always important to make sure that you know who's doing your surgery and who's using the robot. Are they experienced in doing that type of surgery with the robot?
So I'm really fascinated when it comes to robotic surgeries. So when I think about, imagining a doctor standing there over a robot doing surgery, part of my curiosity behind it is, as fascinating as it is, whereas the idea that it's better and it's more proficient, it also makes me feel like a little nervous and apprehensive because I feel like the human touch is important. So when your hands are inside a body and you're actually feeling around, do you lose a piece of that? You know what I'm saying? Like you need your hands really to touch and feel versus that disconnect.
Well, at times, yes, that can be bothersome. However, the newer robotic systems have enabled you to have some of those sensations. Not necessarily the exact tactile feel. However, you're able to... And also experience gives you this knowledge as well. And so with experience, you're able to make good judgment calls and really understand how to use the robot appropriately. Now, in general, the robot is not the best for every single type of surgery. And so it's really a judgment call on the part of the surgeon. So really, it doesn't take that, that human part out of your treatment. You still need your surgeon. 100%.
Well, I would hate to think the robot's like on its own, like in my body, doing some surgical procedure. That would be really frightening. It's like, what was that old movie with all the robots took over? I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure
I do know.
I'm thinking R2-D2 from Star Wars, but I know there's actually some movie out there where robots took over. If anybody's listening, call in and tell us. But okay, so I want to move on because Melanoma Monday. It's all about about melanoma and making people understand why it's so important to stay protected from the sun, especially in Florida. I mean, I really, I worry about that being a fair-skinned person. But what I learned in one of my previous shows is it doesn't matter if I'm fair-skinned or if I'm dark-skinned. And wearing sun protection is extremely important. So if you could just briefly tell me quickly about, how melanoma is treated, or how you specifically would treat melanoma if I was a patient coming into your office. And then tell me about this unbelievably, I think, prestigious and honor that you were given to write this chapter in the book on melanoma. I mean, this is something that's going to be around forever. And anybody who ever wants to learn about melanoma is going to find your writing in there. And that is, I'm honored to have you on the show and just know that I have somebody who is so knowledgeable here who can discuss this. So, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, so I definitely think it was an honor to be able to contribute to the book. Specifically, I wrote a chapter concerning the guidelines after you've already had your melanoma removed, how to prevent it from coming back, and what types of tests you should complete. In general, melanoma can be treated in a wide variety of ways. There's always a surgical part to treating melanoma, meaning most patients benefit from having that area of the tissue removed. And so surgery is only one part of the treatment.
Can I interrupt just because I don't mean to be rude, but sometimes I have to interrupt because I am a layman and I don't want this to be very technical for people not to understand. So when I interrupt, it's simply to like try to dummy it down for somebody like me. Not that I'm a dummy, but like I don't get everything. So when you say like to have a certain part of it removed, what does that mean? Like they taking a chunk out of my skin? Am I going to have a huge scar? Does it mean that, they're trying to work in a way where they're just taking like the top layer and it's going to grow back? Like how scarred and disfigured would I be if I ended up with melanoma?
So most surgeons that operate and most surgeons that do surgery on melanoma, they always take into consideration the disfigurement. And so when I perform surgery on a patient, I always consider, well, where is the melanoma located?
Okay.
And yes, it does mean that you're taking out a portion of your skin. However, I always use incisions that accommodate that portion of the body. So if the area of the body that I'm working on or that I am treating is the arm, for example,
right,
then we definitely orient the incisions in certain ways to accommodate function, to make sure that it's not disabling. As another example, if the melanoma or the skin cancer is located on the face or on other areas, the neck or even the knees or the joints, we always make sure to take that area, but with paying very close attention to the functionality. And so, no.
What does that mean by paying attention to the functionality? So, functionality of what? The cancer and how it would spread, or functionality of?
No, so
I'm not understanding that.
For example, if there was a melanoma close to the eye, then I would make sure to remove the melanoma or the skin cancer in a way that I would not injure or trouble the eyelid from opening and closing. If it was at the corner of the mouth, it would be done in a way so that it would not bother your lips from properly
I see.
pursing.
So when you're saying functionality, you mean so it doesn't affect the other functions around it of the body. So if it was on my finger, or to make sure my finger would still be able to work and I'm not affecting my nerves, it's only doing going like the epidermis or something like that. Very interesting. So if somebody comes to you, are you one of those people that not only removes the melanoma, but then would actually, let's say I needed to repair that skin or treat the scar, or do you actually do that too, or do they go to like a plastic surgeon at that point?
So in my training, I've actually had some plastic surgery reconstructive techniques into my training. So I have the knowledge base in order to do some of the what we call those repairs are advancement flaps. So I do have the knowledge to do those repairs. However, if they're very complicated incisions or very complicated areas that we're removing, then we do involve the plastic surgeons as well.
Well, I do see that you work at the Center for Advanced Surgical Oncology, which is, also an amazing place. And we only have about another minute left, so I just want to give out your phone number one last time. Actually, I'll let you do it. Okay. Tell people where they can get in touch with you, what they should come for, and what the best time to set up an appointment if they really want to speak to you.
Okay. I'm pretty much available any time of the day. My office, except for the middle of the night, sometimes in the middle of the night as well. But my office staff is very friendly. They're available to help and to schedule appointments any day of the week. And my phone number to my office is 305-932-2463. I have two offices, one in North Miami and also a second office in Hialeah.
And just before I say goodbye to Dr. Abdullah, I just want to ask you one last question because I'm about to have somebody from the American Cancer Society come on. And this person I know is a dermatologist. So where does a dermatologist sort of stop and an oncologist start? Like at what point does the dermatologist say, you need to go see the oncologist?
So it's very important to always see a dermatologist, especially if you have a history of melanoma or a history of dysplastic nevi, or a lot of moles on or even a family history of melanoma. A dermatologist, you should be, if you have a diagnosis of melanoma, you should be at least seeing a dermatologist 4 times a year.
Wow, I didn't realize 4 times a year. So like every quarter, you should go and check in with your dermatologist. Okay. And then what about you?
The further out you are from your diagnosis of melanoma, the less and less that you would be required to see your dermatologist.
Okay.
However, if you're very close surrounding your diagnosis of melanoma, you should be seeing them at least 4 times a year.
So, but what about in general? Like a person who doesn't have melanoma, how often should they see their dermatologist?
Well, again, that is a complicated question because it depends on their family history.
Okay.
And so if they do have a family history of melanoma, if they have a history of a lot of moles on their skin, then I would say at least twice a year.
Okay. And then when they go see their dermatologist and the dermatologist like sends off that test to the lab and they come back and they have that unfortunate diagnosis of melanoma, they would then recommend you.
Yes. So if any person has a diagnosis of skin cancer, then they would end up coming to me, whether it's melanoma or squamous cell carcinoma or basal cell carcinoma. These are other types of skin cancers. And so, yes, they would come to see me. And from then on, I would be a regular part of their care, meaning I would probably follow up with them at least once a year, but maybe even twice a year, depending on the cancer.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and driving all that way and all that rush hour traffic. I cannot thank you enough, and I'd love to welcome you back when we do a show on robotics.
Okay.
If you would like to come back and join us.
Sure, I would love to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other topic you want to talk about? I think I heard the phone ring, so I know I was going to go to a commercial break, but I think since we have our guest on the phone from the American Cancer Society, we might kick it to her if you don't mind sitting and waiting for a moment, Doctor.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Do I have the caller on the line, Ken?
Yes, hi. This is Alyssa O'Brien.
Hi, Dr. O'Brien. So thank you so much for calling. We were running a little bit behind. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our Dr. Abdullah talk about oncology. Did you hear that at all?
Just a little bit at the end, I was able to.
Okay, so I'm just going to introduce you very quickly. We didn't have a chance to go to break because we ran over. I wanted to say to our listeners that this is Melanoma Monday, and we are very, very happy that the American Cancer Society wanted to help us to remember all these fabulous facts about what not to do in the sun. And one of the things they want you to know is it's not just about your pretty face. You must protect more than your face. So as Melanoma Monday comes, we have a special tip, normally from KC Tips, but this week it's from Dr. Alyssa O'Brien. She's a volunteer spokesperson for the American Cancer Society. She's board-certified dermatologist with a practice at Water's Edge Dermatology in Jupiter and Palm Beach Gardens. She's also affiliated with Jupiter Medical Center and serves as a co-director of Jupiter Medical Center's cutaneous oncology program. So welcome, Dr. O'Brien. Thank you so much for calling into the show. I know you were going to teach me something I did not know about what I had to know to keep myself from getting cancer of the skin.
Yes, well, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you.
You're right. You're right that it's not just about the face. A lot of people know to use sunscreen on their face and may even have incorporated it into their daily routine. But you really have to remember to protect all other areas, because we see skin cancer not just on the face, but also on the arms, the legs, the chest, the back of the hands. So if someone can get into a routine of using an SPF 30 or higher every morning before they go out for their day to any exposed area, the face, the neck, the chest, arms, or legs, if they're exposed, then that would be something that would benefit them in the long run.
I remember when I spoke to you earlier in the day today, we talked about, because people forget about the hands and the arms, the relevance is that when they're driving in their car, they don't realize that they're getting sun exposure, and they could find out that they have cancer on their pinky. I mean, something like that, right? It could be really, really dangerous.
Yes, absolutely. And we see cancer on the pinky. We see cancer in almost any area of skin that's exposed to the sun, and actually even in areas that aren't exposed to the sun. But a lot of skin cancer is sun-related. And so when you're driving, the UV rays are coming through the window. UVA specifically comes through the window. And over time, that accumulates into DNA damage, and the DNA damage is what then causes skin cancers, and protecting, not just the face, but any other exposed area is going to help to prevent skin cancers in the long run.
So as a dermatologist, we've mostly had oncologists on the program, and I was very grateful for the previous doctor who made a great explanation as to how often they should come and see you versus coming to see her, which is a preventative method to seeing her. So if a patient, you recommend patients coming once, twice, how many times do you recommend to your patients, and what do you tell them to use for SPF, or what kind of number do you tell them? Zinc, not zinc? Give me the lowdown on what to do to protect your skin, and how it should be different, let's say, for a little child who's in the park or going to school versus, a person every day who has the luxury of putting sunscreen on.
Absolutely. So what I recommend to my patients is that for early detection, what we would, prevention is more sunscreen, but early detection is catching something in the office in the very early stages, or having a patient bring the attention to us. At least once a year skin screening for patients that are around the age of 14 or 15 or higher. There is no standard set rule that there's an age cutoff, but generally accepted by dermatologists is around the age of 14 or 15 and higher, because that's when melanomas start to be a little bit prevalent, and other skin cancers typically arise a little bit later. If someone's had a strong sun history or a strong family history of skin cancers, or if they personally have had skin cancers, then they may likely be on a more frequent schedule than that. So, maybe every 6 months, or for some patients, even every 3 to 4 months, depending on their history and what else is going on. So those are typically, the frequency we recommend. And for children, if a mother or father has a child where they have moles that they're specifically concerned about, then we would encourage them coming in sooner. But as a standard for every child every single year to see them is probably, a little bit more than necessary.
Well, what do you suggest for parents to do? Because I know for myself, I have this trouble all the time getting my kid to be covered when they're at school. They go to the playground. They're living in Florida, and all year round they're exposed. So I could put them sunblock on in the morning. I do one of these 8-hour sunblocks supposedly, and it has zinc in it. I'm not even sure if I'm using the right level of zinc, but what should I be looking for to know that I'm using the right number zinc, or the right percentage of zinc, the right brand, perhaps, without touting a brand, but, the best you can to tell me what to do as a mother to protect my kid when they go to school?
So I would say that the most important thing is the SPF 30 or higher, and then if you can find a zinc sunblock that the child likes, which is actually pretty easy these days. They used to be pretty pasty and white, but now they make them clear, they make them tinted for women, who like more of a tinted makeup feel. But for kids, generally, a sunblock that they like the feel of that's zinc-based. And the zinc doesn't truly come in a percentage that we're focused on. It's more that is their main active ingredient, would be zinc oxide. So you'd be looking for a zinc oxide sunblock that lists the SPF of 30 or higher, and to put a layer on the child before they go to school to any area that will be exposed when they're going about their day or going to recess. And then specifically if you can ask for the school to apply a layer right before recess, because sunblock does wear off, and it usually only lasts at maximal effect 1 to 2 hours. It may be a little effective longer than that, but a reapplication, before going directly outside is recommended.
Well, the problem is, as parents, we cannot get these teachers to put the sunblock on our children, and it's a very scary thing. I mean, I have the doctor here still sitting next to me, and she's shaking her head. Feel free to tune in. Yes, you can ask. The doctor would like to make a statement and ask a question.
I just wanted to add that there are actually garments that actually have SPF impregnated in the garments, and so those are actually, I would recommend those for your kids. You can get them at sports stores.
But what about when they're in uniform? That's a problem too. And it's not even so much the garments, it's the facial exposure that concerns me. I agonize when I go to the store looking for, zinc, 0.14, 0.2. I guess what I'm hearing is I shouldn't agonize over that. But what I find it almost impossible to find a zinc product that doesn't start with titanium or something else. I never see that as the main ingredient.
Really, it may be something that you might find more over the internet if you're having trouble at your local pharmacy. But I've looked specifically, at some of the local pharmacies. They have their own, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, but they have their own generic brands, and they just say zinc sunblock. Or sometimes you just have to take the bottle and flip it over and see that the active ingredient is the first one really listed as zinc.
Is the zinc
oxide is really,
That's great information.
It doesn't matter at looking in that area.
Well, I'm so glad I have a dermatologist and an oncologist sitting here in the room together, because that's the best way to get answers to all these questions.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it, because I know you're here representing the American Cancer Society. And in what ways do you refer people to the American Cancer Society, or is there any specific way in which you sort of help to support them, other than obviously what you're doing now, which is speaking on their behalf?
Yeah, just making sure that they're familiar with their general recommendations for prevention and screening, because the American Cancer Society does so much for the public, directing them to the website, which has a lot of really plentiful information regarding all different cancers, including melanoma and other skin cancers. And, just making sure that I'm promoting overall good well-being and specifically prevention and early detection. I think that's one of the main focuses, so we can catch skin cancers when they're early, and specifically melanoma is often curable when it's caught early. So I really like the American Cancer Society's plight when it comes to screening and prevention.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much. If you don't mind, Dr. O'Brien, just tell people the way they can get in touch with you very quickly with your telephone number. And thank you to the American Cancer Society for any more information. It's www.cancer.org. And I'm going to say one last statement for Dr. Abdullah and say thank you very much to Dr. O'Brien. Dr. Abdullah, you can talk to me briefly about breast cancer next time, right? I know that you're very involved with the American Cancer Society, and breast cancer is one of your topics. And to me, that's obviously very important as a woman, learning how to self-exam, which I don't think I do enough of. Maybe you can give a couple of quick tips pertaining to breast and cancer for any listeners, and how they can, between now and then, line up questions and maybe self-check themselves.
So it's actually not that important to actually I think most patients, when they come to my office, they agonize, they say they don't know how to check themselves. But it's really not, the important part is not knowing how to. It's really being able to find something new. And so if you examine your breasts, you should always examine your breasts once a month and approximately the same time of the month. So designate a day, the first of the month, every month. That's when you should check yourself. And you should touch, you should feel, you should try to feel every area of your breast. And the main thing that I tell the patients is that it's more important that if you feel something new, that's when you should come to your doctor. It's not about knowing what to feel. It's just that if it's new to you, then you should go to your doctor.
Well, this is going to lead us into our next guest, because one of the ways that could be fun, I guess, to do self-exams is to do it with your partner. right? So, which leads me to my next guest from WOW, and we're going to find more about that after the break. So thank you so much, Doctor. I really, really am grateful for your coming here today.
Thank you.
And we're going to kick it to a break and stand by. We're coming back with WOW.
After the break, our healthy hot topic of the week. Stay tuned to AM 1470 WNN. You're listening to Stay Alive and Fit with Goodman.
Hi, I'm Liz, and ask me and I will find the answers you seek to all your fitness and medical questions. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. The sight of blood makes me squeal. I'm just an ordinary gal trying to navigate through the maze of all the ways I can stay fit, focused, and feel fabulous. Whether you're 20 or 80, male or female, mixed messages about what's best for your health can make you feel like you're on a runaway train. So get on board and take a medical mystery ride with me, and we will stop at every station to find the answers you seek. Call in to 888-565-1470 and participate in the conversation. Listen on Talk Radio WNN 1470 and watch us live on AMP2.tv. That's AMP, the number 2.tv. And don't forget to email me your questions to liz@stayaliveandfit.com. Mondays, 7 to 8 p.m. Oh yeah, we're on the air. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, it's fun, and I've got WOW here, and I'm going to be wowed. I'm very excited. This is another different thing that we're doing here today. We've got this really unbelievably I'm not quite sure how to put it. Besides beautiful, sitting next to me, this woman named Tanya Abreu. She's an inspirational, motivational speaker. She inspires me just reading about her today. She's got more than 25 years in addressing respective needs of consumers and healthcare professionals. She helps to improve models of healthcare for over 130 international cities, which to me is just like, I can't even imagine what you've done to put yourself in that position. But from what I've read, WOW is a health group in South Florida-based operation that offers concierge women's health services. It's in Boca Raton and West Palm Beach. It also hosts a WOW Arts Warehouse, which is activities and entertainment for the community. And it's just this unbelievably wow thing. And to get in touch with WOW, you're going to want to call 866-376-0632. You'll want to email Deanna, DEANNA, at wowhealthgroup.com. And one of the things that I was reading about Tanya, do you mind if I call you Tanya?
Absolutely not.
Okay. One of the things I was reading about Tanya is that her background was very interesting. She had a background where she created something called the Spirit of Women's Health Network in 1999. Oh, boy. I keep on trying to get that to stop. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It happens to all of us.
Oh, you know, my son's birthday is today, and so I have everybody calling to say happy birthday to him, and I must have sent out 10 texts that they should call on my daughter's phone, but they keep forgetting. So I apologize to the listeners here. Sometimes life happens. That's what this is all about.
That's what WOW is all about.
That's what this is all about, right? So the Spirit of Women's Health Network, which was developed in 1999, is a health and action multimedia marketing platform that you sold. And tell me a little bit about that, because I think that's like a really cool. We only have about 15 minutes on the show, and I want to try to touch everything that we can.
Not a problem. I began my career in healthcare in an interesting way. My background is teaching English literature to university students, and I moved into healthcare at McGee Women's Hospital and University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and really learned that language creates action and can change the way we behave. And so I got into healthcare marketing and spent almost a decade at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center learning how to influence women to change their lives. We're all aware of things, but we don't do things to change our lives.
Okay.
After that, I realized that most hospitals hospitals weren't as evolved as the hospital that I was at. And we began a company that helped hospitals demonstrate to women that they were much more than just their bodies, that they were also their mind and their spirit. So the program is called Spirit of Women. It still exists, and it's in hundreds of hospitals across the United States. But I shifted gears because I myself got a little sick.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all right, because that's life. Just like your phone ringing, every once in a while a disease strikes or cancer strikes or many other things. And when that happened to me, I realized it was less about hospitals and more about the preeminence of my doctor and me working together, not to give me medicines, but to give me hope. And so optimistic medicine was born. And every time I went into the doctor's office, I came out feeling not worn out like I went in, but wow. And the more I talk to women, they say, wow, I wish I had a doctor like that.
That's how wow came.
That's how wow came. It really means worn out to wow, but it also means world of wellness these days, because we really believe. You mentioned all that stuff that sounded like so much energy. It is. The biggest excuse that, the biggest complaint that women tell their physicians and healthcare providers is that, can you guess what it is?
They need to be wowed?
Yeah, they're exhausted. They're exhausted. They're too exhausted to function well. They're sick. They're tired. They're overweight because they're too tired to cook. They're not having sex. They're just tired. And they ask the doctor, what can we do? That's why antidepressants are the largest prescription on the market. So we're really trying to find better ways. If you really are feeling low, if you have no energy, if you feel that exhaustion has gotten your heart and is strangling it, there are ways to move out of that are healthy, fun, and a part of a community that your doctor is a part of too.
So let me ask you a couple of questions about this specifically. I was reading about like the sexual aspect of this, and what I'm hearing from you is that this is a lot about women empowering themselves, and that includes medically. And I know there's all these VIP medical places now, but women have other needs, and sometimes those needs are sexual needs. And as they get older, they don't really understand how their body's changing, how things are happening, and maybe they're uncomfortable discussing that with their regular doctor. So being part of this WOW network and this sort of concierge VIP medical-based program that you've I guess, invented. How do you think that helps women to feel more relaxed in that environment, especially talking about things that can be sort of uncomfortable? You know, 1 out of every 2 people have STDs now. And then I was doing an episode on geriatric sex and syphilis. And so it was like syphilis after 70.
It's worse than
so
that.
It's really
1 out of
crazy.
2 women have real issues with urinary incontinence. And if you
I didn't know
want
that.
to, it's a romantic killer right there.
From well, yeah. But I guess from giving birth, too,
Giving
right?
birth,
So
exercise. Lots and lots of exercise can hurt too.
not doing those Kegels?
Kegels. Kegels is the cake.
You know, I'm Jewish. We just have a lot of Kegels. I meant Kegels.
Well, we are having a conference.
Came out the wrong way.
I'm going to throw this in there because it's really important. Kugel Conference.
We're gonna change the name and call it Kugels now.
Conference. Yeah. More women would do it, let me tell you. We are having a conference.
Like Kugels.
I don't either. No, the chocolate ones aren't bad. For healthcare providers out in Vegas,
Okay.
August the 15th and 16th. And it's really important because we want all doctors to understand when a woman comes to them and says, I'm tired, I want to give up on my health, I want to give up on my life, that it's not that difficult for them to understand. We're trying to help doctors understand that after 40, a lot of women have issues with how they look, how they feel, how their bodies are functioning. So we're repackaging primary care as sexual health care so that a lot of women actually, believe it or not, will talk about sexuality. And they can, as a part of talking about sexuality, talk about their hormone imbalances, bleeding disorders, urinary incontinence, pain, all the things that build after 40. So our conference that we're having really has the best physicians coming and talking and sharing with other physicians how to repackage what they do to bring women into primary care again. We stay away from doctors. We don't want to get weighed. We don't want to talk about things that are embarrassing. But when you say, come in and you'll be vital and beautiful and strong and regenerated again, women come in and they talk. So that's what we're really talking about in August.
So are you doing that in Florida as well, or is it really just going to be, you know, do we have to get up and get to Vegas? And is that specifically for the physicians to better understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for patients to go there and learn about. So you gear everything towards teaching physicians how to be better doctors for women.
Yes, on one hand.
Very cool.
And then we have a model right here in Boca and in West Palm where we're experimenting. What do women want? We're listening. We're learning. That's why we have the Arts Warehouse where we're exercising and partying and having fashion shows, what women really consider healthy. You never would have thought that actually painting something most women feel is better for their health than going to the primary care doctor.
Well, I have to say, I used to be a TV producer. I'm still a producer, but I worked on a show that you may or may not remember, given our age. It was called Farrah Fawcett's All of Me, and it was for Playboy. I was what they call the second assistant director, and my job was to basically take care of Farrah and babysit her and get her on set and make sure she did everything. But what that show was her naked on a canvas, painting the canvas with her body. Now, I'm 48. When I met her, I was like 20.
You're wild 48, by the way. Just got to tell you.
Thank you.
You could be our poster child here in Boca.
Oh, thank you. Well, so speaking of that, I was just a baby when I met her, and I looked at her and I went, oh my goodness, if I could have those legs at 50, and I don't have those legs at 50, but she was really naked. She was beautiful. I saw her naked for like 10 days. I mean, she was naked, literally walking around the set, putting her body on paint, splashing on paint, and then a canvas was spread along the wall, and she was rolling on the canvas, on the wall, on the ground.
Here's a new class for a while to consider.
Well, it was a very interesting thing to do, and the idea was she was flaunting her sexuality and how great she felt about herself through her artwork and through her body being naked. And a lot of women, as we get older, we are embarrassed about our bodies as we get older because a little cellulite and these things start to appear, and they're constantly trying to change that. So one of the things I think that's really interesting about what you're doing is that I think you're empowering women to not feel so self-conscious and empowering doctors to make women feel less self-conscious.
Absolutely. There is no excuse, no matter what is wrong with you or not wrong with you, that when you walk out of a WOW healthcare provider's office, that you don't feel better than when you walked in.
That's great.
We have women that have been coming to us. We've only really been open with the clinical model that hopefully someday will franchise. We've only been open
Well, you've done it before. You can do it again. Go, wow, go.
Thank you. But, we've only been around for about 2 months, and we've had about 50% of those women coming back and more on 3 and 4 visits. And the one woman the other day said, I really feel like I'm coming to my favorite sister's home. And that just made me feel like, wow.
Wow. I love that. Wow. So one of the things I would like to propose to you, because you're in this sort of beginning network stage, and I am doing that with this show. This show is called Stay Alive and Fit, and it's all about people, women, normal, everyday people, empowering themselves to learn ways to stay alive and fit. And we want to start doing seminars, and we want to start talking about these things. And I would love to include you ladies when we get to that point of being part of that process and that seminar where when we're talking to a large group and we're bringing on doctors from Tennant and the American Cancer Society, and we're going to bring our audiences to hopefully a live audience, a live show at a seminar, and talk about WOW and staying alive and fit and how we can empower ourselves, whether we're a woman, a man, a child, to get more in tune with their health, to speak up for themselves and get that, because I talk about VIP for the masses and you talk about VIP for women. So there's a great synergy here, and I really want to help people to better help themselves. And it sounds like you're very much about the same thing. Yeah. So I'm very glad to have met you. How did you come to know Tennant Florida's Physician Services, and what's your connection to this particular hospital? We've got about 3 more minutes.
Well, we're here in the community, and Tennant is a wonderful hospital system here, and I've been there personally. But my partner, my colleague, Marilyn DiMartini, she is really a master of something that she calls dynamic aging, dynamic fitness.
Ooh, that.
Yes, and so she has been doing the network and really trying to find physicians and nurses and hospitals that really believe in fitness beyond the hospital walls. So she found you and the program and the concept and brought WOW, which is her birth child as well, to the table.
Is that the beautiful lady who's sitting next to us?
Yeah, that's Marilyn, and she has her WOW T-shirt on.
I'm not sure if she's comfortable. We've got 3 minutes if you want to scoot over here and let our listeners see you. She's another beautiful lady here.
I will. You can sit
and
on my lap.
I wish I had realized, you have to scoot on down, look at the camera.
Look at the camera.
So, okay.
This is
there you go.
That's the good thing about being fit, is that you can move. And my whole program is the dynamics of movement and how that changes your life and how you feel just by moving more powerfully. And that's something that we tend to lose as we age a little bit, some of our vitality, some of our flexibility, and we can get that all back just by moving. I happen to like yoga for that.
Sorry.
That's part of important movement, right? But I'm always happy to talk about fitness and wellness and exercise and how they all tie in together. And it doesn't have to be working out. We put the fun back in your workout.
I like that. We put the fun back in your workout. So one of my things that I say, I want to be fit, fabulous, and focused at 50. And and I always debate with people, I'm 48 and a half. I'll be 49 in September. They're like, oh, you're not allowed to say you're almost 50. If they're a man, they say that. Women, we always say, oh my God, I'm almost 50. So, but
I'm over 60.
Right.
I don't care.
So the idea is it shouldn't matter. That's the point. We want to be fit, fabulous, and focused. And to do that, we need guidance from fabulous doctors from Tenet Florida Physician Services. Great ladies like yourself, like from WOW, who help wow us and make those connections for those doctors. And, and I do need to add some of that fitness segment to this show. So maybe we'll have you back again and we'll talk about other ways that we can connect, stay alive and fit.
We'll have you come to the WOW Arts Warehouse.
That would be fabulous.
Program there.
That'd be fun.
So we've got one more minute. Why don't you kick out your telephone number and how anybody listening to the show can get in touch with you quickly?
Sure. Our phone number is 1-866-376-0632. It's real easy to contact either one of us. It could be Marilyn, Marilyn, at WOW Health Group, or Tanya at TANYA at WOW Health Group. And
go to the website.
Or good.
Okay, I've got to say goodnight, ladies. So thank
See
you.
us on Facebook.
Okay, see them on Facebook and tune into www.stayaliveandfit.com and watch us Monday nights, amp2.tv, 7 o'clock on Mondays. We are so happy you're with us tonight. Thank you to all the doctors who are on the show, Tenet Florida Physician Services, and David DePino, and I'm having tongue-twisted things today. So good night, guys. Melanoma Monday. Stay protected. Slip, slop, slap, and wrap. The American Cancer Society wants you to remember to cover up so that you don't get melanoma. Have a good night.
You've been listening to Stay Alive and Fit with Liz Goodman, a new innovative radio show that taps into what's happening now in the medical industry, featuring fitness experts, foodies, and medical professionals from Tenet Health, with breaking medical news from David DePino. Get it right here and be an active participant in your health. Mixed messages about what is best for your health can make you feel like you're on a runaway train. Get ready to hop aboard again next time for Stay Alive and Fit with Liz Goodman. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers